Hey everybody, Westbank Real Estate Investors. We have another great guest coming up in February, Mr. James Rolf. But today what we want to do is kind of unpack, he's going to talk about historic tax credits at the actual meeting. But the information, there's a lot of information to unpack. So what we want to do is kind of do a more concentrated call to where we can do a deep dive on exactly what historic tax credits are, where you can use them, how you can use them and leverage them and benefit a development or current investment that you already have. So I just want to introduce everybody to James Rolf. How you doing today, James?
Hey, Emil, thanks, man. Good to see you.
Man, so exactly, we'll get straight into it. What are historic tax credits? Well, how you describe historic tax credits to investors?
Being an investor myself, I always go straight to the money.
Yeah.
It's like how can this make my project feasible? And depending upon your location and the age of your building, the historic tax credits can give you anywhere from 20 to 40%, some states up to 45% of your qualified rehabilitation expenditures back after the project is complete. And so there's different ways of structuring it, but it is an incentive to restore as opposed to demo and build new, or as opposed to renovating a historic building to the point to where you can't even recognize it as historic anymore.
And what are those? Run it back again. The qualified.
So they're called, the acronym is QREs. It's Qualified Rehabilitation Expenditures. So the way I like to describe it is, if you take an old building and you pick it up, turn it upside down and you shake it, anything that doesn't fall is qualified, right?
Okay.
So like appliances won't qualify, but new HVAC, new electrical, all your mechanical equipment, new flooring, things like that, all that qualifies. Things that are new to bring a building up to code and up to date that you wouldn't think would be qualified for something called historic tax credits actually do qualify. So it's basically everything except for your acquisition costs, appliances, and landscaping, because the landscaping is not part of the actual building itself.
Got it. And so those tax credits give you a percentage off of what it will cost to put those things back?
So it is a dollar for dollar credit against your income tax liability. Okay. We'll do a real quick, you spend $100,000 fixing up a house or an apartment or a church or whatever. Spend $100,000 on that. If you're doing the 20% credit, the state credit, at the end of your project, the Louisiana Department of Revenue will issue you a $20,000 tax credit that when you go to pay your taxes, you can use it against it. It's not a write-off. It's not reducing your taxable income. You can claim as much taxable income as you want and look good on paper. And then it's like, it's a coupon. It's like, here you go, instead of money. Wow. Yeah. So it's really good. And the Louisiana state program, that credit is transferable, which means you can sell it. So if you don't have a high tax liability, especially a high state income tax liability, you can take that $20,000 credit and you can sell it to somebody who needs it, usually in the range of the mid 80s, 85 cents on the dollar, and pocket $17,000, $18,000. And put that, reimburse yourself, basically.
And what's the reality of that? What's the reality of that secondary market? So if I did want to use tax credits as a strategy, if I have enough and I want to sell them, how easy is that for me to find somebody to sell it to?
Very easy. Usually as an historic tax credit consultant, I have accountants, and we call them syndicators, but basically they're brokers who come to me all the time and say, hey, I know you have clients that are doing tax credit projects. We need, I have an end user who needs a tax credit for his 2019 taxes that he hasn't paid yet because he's waiting. And so the accountants, sometimes the accountants will have somebody who has a high tax liability, and that'll be a direct connect. They'll put the two of you in touch, and you don't have to go through that broker who's going to take his 1 or 2, 3 penny commission, basically. But there's a whole market for that. Yeah. And when you get into the really big projects, there are ways of monetizing the federal credit, which is not transferable. So you don't transfer the credit, so you transfer the building, and then you get the money instead. But that's getting really into the weeds. So that might be part 2 of this.
One more question. So what does it mean when tax credits are transferable? How do you teach that to somebody?
It is a commodity, right? It is something that has value that may have more value to somebody else and less value to you, and you sell that. You sell that to them. So Emil, if you have a tax liability moving forward and I don't, I said, I really need the cash. I don't pay that much in taxes. I'm going to sell it to Emil, and he's going to buy my $20,000 credit for $18,000, and he just saved himself some money on what he owes the government. But there is, just like there's a tax credit form, there's a transfer form too, and we both sign it. We both put how much I'm selling it to you for, and you give me the money, and I give you the form, and you take that form and you submit that with your taxes.
And it's one of the things your office can help out with.
Yes. Yeah, we can help with those transfers. I've put clients directly in touch with the end buyer. I've put clients directly in touch with the syndicator, and I've had the contractor who did the rehab on the church buy the tax credits from the church. And it was a really, really great deal. And actually it happened on the Westbank.
That's a win-win, truly.
Oh yeah.
So, so the tax credits, and I'm learning about that right now. So that is a benefit, because we as investors get a lot of capital gains hits, especially at the end of the year when a lot of these properties sell and we look at their QuickBooks and that percentage of taxes we got to pay back. Those tax credits from somebody from your office will help us kind of mitigate that hit. So
right.
Good. Yeah.
Right. And those capital gains. So that's the benefit of doing a project that has the federal credit, because the same thing with the federal credit, you can't sell it, but you can use that against your capital gains. And if you do one decent sized federal credit deal a year, you can wind up, if you do it strategically, you can wind up paying nothing in capital gains, aside from just saying, take it out of my tax credit.
Right.
And you keep all your money.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what are some other benefits of historic tax credits?
Aside from that, aside from the benefit of the historic tax credit itself, it pairs really well with a couple of other programs. And this is a parish by parish thing, but I know Jefferson Parish and Orleans Parish both have the property tax abatement program. And if you're meeting the requirements for a rehabilitation of an historic structure in either of those parishes, and plenty of other parishes, you will pretty much automatically qualify. And it's just a bunch of paper shuffling, but you pretty much automatically qualify for your property tax abatement. And it is a 10-year freeze on the property taxes. So you buy a piece of property and it's just junk, right? And the previous owner was paying $500 a year, but once you fix it up and that thing's worth $500,000 or more, you're going to pay a lot of property taxes on that, especially if you're buying and holding. And so you can use the tax abatement to just freeze that for 10 years. And that is a service that we offer as well. We will walk you through that with LED, Louisiana Economic Development office. And for larger projects, I'm talking about several $1-million projects, historic tax credits also pair well with LIHTC, low income housing tax credits. again, a lot of similar requirements. You're usually, when you're buying something that needs a lot of work, you're typically buying in low-income communities that have that need for affordable housing, and so that all works well together too. So I would say those are probably, aside from just looking really good, and if you do it smart, you are fixing up a building that is going to really stand out. If you're buying in a historic neighborhood, chances are property values are already good or on the cusp of increasing, and so you're adding to that, and you're in turn helping the neighborhood, making yourself look good. So there's those ancillary benefits of being the good investor, right? And being responsible, not just I'm in it to make money, and of course you are, we all are, but you also look really good too, and that kind of greases the tracks for future projects, especially if you need some help from the city with permits, or the city council to have any kind of resolution to make your project work. You have a track record of doing what's good for the community and improving it, and not necessarily being seen as a gentrifier, but as somebody who's reinvesting in the community.
Yeah, that's excellent insight. So you mentioned doing these type of things in historic neighborhoods. I kind of want to get into the maps now, because what's your advice to the investors that are not in the heavy historic area neighborhood? So I'm not in Orleans, or I'm not in Gretna, but I'm investing in, other areas deeper into the West Bank, the Moreros, the Harveys. How can I still get in on it? So if we could just get into the maps, I think we can.
I'm going to share my screen.
A picture.
Yeah, let's see. So I'll start by saying that there are, and there actually, it's weird the way, big surprise, Louisiana did something that was a little weird when it comes to legislation and politics, but what qualifies a building for the state historic is being in what is called a cultural district, which is not necessarily an historic district. And there are no regulations if you're in a cultural district, but there are benefits. And since we're talking about it today, the state historic tax credit is one. But this is a map of Louisiana. All of the yellow, and you have to zoom in, because all the orange, those are opportunity zones. But all of the yellow, I mean, so here you are in central Louisiana, coming down. Lafayette's got a bunch of cultural districts. Baton Rouge does too. I'm actually going to turn off the opportunity zone layer so that we can see what we're looking at a little bit better.
And where is this map? Is this this online, or this is?
Yes. So I know you're going to put this on YouTube. We can drop these links in the notes, but it is it's crt.state.la.us. CRT is Cultural Resource and Tourism Department. That's Billy Nungesser's office. So that is where the State Historic Preservation, the Division of Preservation, is located. But I wanted to show you have. Look, Laplace has got a historic, a cultural district, reserve, Edgar, a lot of these places along the river. And as far as Jefferson Parish, you have Kenner. That's Kenner Rivertown right there. And then you have pretty much everything south of 610 in New Orleans. And a lot of people are surprised to see that parts of the east, right? So you have Haine Boulevard right here, this whole strip of Haine, that's all. And then you have over here, the Viet Village over here in New Orleans East. But I do want to say that there are a lot of neighborhoods that would qualify to become a cultural district. And if you have community buy-in, and if you have city council buy-in, it's not hard to establish a cultural district. And that is something that I've actually helped with recently. I extended a cultural district in Algiers. There's a client who was looking to buy a property, and they were neither in a cultural district nor were they in a national register district. And so I actually extended the cultural district, and we're in the process. We have preliminary approval to put the building on the national register. And so where no tax incentive qualifications existed, we created that. So if the project is big enough, you can create that. Or if you have a group of investors, it's like, you know what, Westwego, you see, you have these stars right here are individual listings on the national register. So those buildings would be eligible for the federal credit. But I've driven around a lot around Westwego and Marrero, especially by the river, between the expressway and the river. And there are a lot of areas that could easily become a cultural district. But there are a ton of these that exist throughout the state. On the North Shore, you see a bunch of them over here. Covington has got it, Mandeville, Madisonville, even parts of Lacombe you can see. So the West Bank has a lot of opportunity for that. But yeah, I'll share this map, and you can see as you move throughout the state, there are a lot of cultural districts. Some of them you have to zoom in on, like you can't, in Natchitoches, for example, I know there's one. I went to school there. You really have to zoom in to see it. There it is. So they're there.
And what's the difference between the yellow and the pink? So stars are actual buildings.
So here, yeah, the stars are the individually listed buildings, right? So
okay.
here's a plantation that's on the National Register. The pink is a National Register district, like the whole district. For example, the French Quarter, right, is a district. Gretna has a National Register district. And that is what, being a contributing element to that district or individually listed on the National Register, is what qualifies you for the federal historic credit, that 20%. But if you live in Natchitoches and you live right here where the two overlap, the pink and the yellow, then you're qualified for both, and you get the 20% state credit and the 20% federal credit. So you have a 40% credit. So there's a lot of areas that have that too. So there's the pink, the National Register, Natchitoches, and then here's the yellow. It's just the Natchitoches Cultural District, nothing special about it, the name. You can see it's all of Northwestern State. Go Demons.
One more question, James. So what is the incentive for either the landlord that purchases the property, just a single family property, or the renovator or the builder that just has one parcel and not an entire development? What's the reason it would be even worth the work, besides the tax credits for taxes? If I'm a building and sell it anyway, and it's not a big development, what's the incentive for the smaller projects?
What's the incentive to pursue the tax credit or to establish a district?
No, to pursue the tax credit. So for give you an example, so I bought a property in a district, right? But it's just one vacant lot that I just plan on building a single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath on. We'll be in and out in 4 months. Why take the extra mile to go after the tax credits if that's the scenario and it's not a big development?
Right. Well, new construction won't count, right? It's the historic tax credit. So the building has to be 50 years old or older.
Okay, that's good.
So there's no incentive for new construction. If you get into a lot of new construction or big commercial new construction, there are other tax credits. There's a new markets tax credit, and I think low-income housing ties into that as well. But if you buy, I'll use myself as an example. Right down the street from me, I bought a double, and I did a light renovation. It's a buy and hold for me. I spent $70,000 on it, and the incentive was I got $14,000 back in tax credits, and that will cover the cost of a really big change order.
Yeah. And that's one time, or so what are the other benefits throughout the whole tenure of the ownership or owning that property also?
So it is just that tax credit, and for the state, you can take it all at one time. You can use it all in 1 year, or you can spread it over 5 years.
Mhm.
With the federal credit, you can spread it out. You have to take it over 5 years, but you can take it up to 20 years,
Okay.
which is tremendous. Especially, it's like, well, I can't sell it, so what am I going to do with it after? You can spread it out, and that'll cover your capital gains. But no, the incentive is really just that monetary tax credit incentive. It is a rehabilitation, as opposed to new construction, is more labor heavy than materials heavy, and you need to find some good tradesmen, which we can help with, right? But I mean, that is what the incentive is.
Yeah. I think that's good advice, man. So we don't want to get too deep, but we definitely want to give attention to that map. So one more thing, what else does your office kind of service for investors? So we know tax credits is one thing. It sounds like it's a great place to network for that secondary market if I do have tax credits for sale. But what else, sir, what other services you guys offer investors?
We'll help manage the project if you need a project manager.
Wow.
We will actually put your property on the National Register if it is not already in a district and it's not individually listed.
Mhm.
We can extend or create a new cultural district to get the state credit, right? The National Register is for the federal credit, the cultural district is for the state credit. We can do both, like I described earlier. We can help with permitting, both in Gretna and City of New Orleans. I know particularly in the City of New Orleans, it is difficult. So, and then we can also help with referrals to tax credit project friendly subcontractors, contractors, architects, engineers. We can, so our services are, depending upon your need, we will, and if you apply for the credit, we will do everything. We'll take you from start to finish, and we will, even if we're not project managing, we'll pop in on the project and make sure that everything's being done the way that it should be, to where you are not in danger of losing the credit, right? Yeah. And so basically all we need is your signature, and we'll stay as an in-between between you and your contractor, and if you have an architect, your architect. But we're very hands-on.
One more scenario before I let you go. So we know what the ideal experience is, finding the property, putting everybody in place, getting the tax credits. So where have you seen it go wrong when somebody has been an applicant, but it hasn't gone according to plan? If you can share what happened, and can that be remedied when you don't fulfill all of the obligations like you're supposed to with the development?
Okay. So I probably should have said this from the beginning. These programs are not for everybody, and they're not for every project.
Yeah.
Some folks want to have, open floor plans and want to have rooftop additions that are close to the street, and a lot of other things that don't work with a historic renovation, right? If you're dramatically changing the look of the building, this is probably not your program. If it's an owner occupied property, this is not your program. Yeah. Basically, if you have, what is it? Homestead exemption. If you have homestead exemption, you won't qualify, right? Okay. Unless you live in a double and you fix up the other half of the double that you're not occupying, then you can get that. I usually work with my clients from the very beginning before we even put the application in. I'll have some unofficial conversations with the tax credit reviewer to see if a project is even feasible.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this because I actually have not had an application that has been submitted and denied. But it is an all or none thing, right? So you can't say, well, I'm going to renovate the property and I'm going to do these 9 out of 10 things that I'm supposed to do for the tax credits, but I really like replacement windows, and I'm going to get rid of these old historic windows. But I want to get tax credits on everything else. Well, that's not how this works. It's an all or none thing. I'll give you the extreme example. I was working on a school renovation. It was a $30 million project, and there was this historic handrail, this newel post that went from the 3rd floor of the school to the attic space. And we had pictures of it, and it was a character defining feature. And it's like, we're going to restore this, we're going to put it back. And when we were taking the final pictures to submit to the tax credit people, they said the newel post was gone, it was missing. And they're like, where is this? Well, we don't know. The contractor may have put it in the attic, it may have gotten thrown away. And the tax credit reviewer said, you have to find that.
Wow.
And so I had to go back to the architect and the contractor, and I said, that post right there is worth 40%. So it's a $12 million post right there.
Right.
So you need to recreate it based on pictures, or you need to find it.
Right.
So I would say that's probably the closest I've ever gotten to really having a project take a nosedive.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
So at any moment, it's not once you get past the application phase, at any moment they could step in and blow the whistle, is what it sounds like.
They're not closely monitoring your projects. They're really not monitoring your projects at all. You take pictures at the beginning, then you submit your proposed scope. If you carry out the project according to what you proposed and what they approved, and you take the after pictures, if everything in the after pictures looks like what they had approved, that's it. They only see pictures. They want you to submit, drugstore quality pictures with the description of it. So, and that's it. They, especially during COVID, and unless it's a really big project, they don't do site visits. That's why my team and we'll go and we'll make sure it's like, your contractor's not doing what we said we were going to do. We said we were going to fix this door, not put in a masonite door. And they don't think it's a big deal, but you're putting your incentives on the line. Yeah. And so it's really, that's really important. So basically the key to a successful project is get approval early on. Don't change anything. If you find something that needs to be changed, we'll submit it for approval, and just, stay the course. Don't change directions all the time. That has been the biggest challenge is bird dogging some clients who are just like, I want to do this now. I want to do this now. It's like, no. That's not what you signed that said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. Now you're doing something different. If you don't want the tax credit, that's fine. But if you do, you got to stick with what we said we're going to do. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, how can people get in touch with you for more information before they see you in person at the meetup?
Yeah. So my email is james.rolf, and we can put this in the notes, james.rolf@rolfpreservationworks.com. Our phone number is 504-229-2291. And website is rolfpreservationworks.com, and Instagram and Facebook is @Rolf Preservation Works for both of them. So that's the best way of finding us. Unless I'm on a call, I'll pick up when you call.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, James. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Emil.
All right. See you at the meetup.
All right.